Hey, look what I got. That's right, I got the Transformers React 2-pack of Starscream and Bumblebee, and I, I guess to put all this up front, this 2-pack actually has me really excited about the Optimus Prime and Soundwave 2-pack that I have sitting in my Big Bad Toy Store pile of loot. This 2-pack I got from Hasbro Pulse because I had both the 2-packs pre-ordered on BBTS, but for some reason BBTS got Prime and Soundwave in, but not Starscream and Bumblebee, and then Pulse got in Starscream and Bumblebee, but didn't have Prime and Soundwave at the time. So I ended up canceling my pre-order for these two on BBTS, got them through Pulse, and that's why I have them now. I have, as I'm recording this, you're going to be watching this in 2024, so Happy New Year, by the way. But as I'm recording this, it's actually a little bit before Christmas, so it's like right towards the tail end of December, and I didn't want to bother shipping my BBTS pile of loot that close to the holidays. I may even wait until 2024 to ship it, just because, you know, I feel like the logistics of the shipping and stuff is going to be irritating, so I might just, wait to make it easier on myself, so I'm not stressing over it. But basically, yeah, these two are, they took me by surprise. They really took me by surprise. And yeah, let's just get into it. I guess for no particular reason, we'll start with Bumblebee. And Bumblebee is this kind of off-road vehicle looking thing. It's definitely an interesting design. Like, the contours are a little bit VW Bug in the fact that, like, the hood section and wheel wells are very curved towards the front, but it's a little bit like his Rise of the Beasts Camaro, which had, like, the really intense off-road feel with, like, you've got roll bars, the big bumper, and then it's also very much its own thing. It's got a little bit of War for Cybertron in there too, with like some of the contours and line work around the doors. It's an interesting design. The thing is, I actually really like the designs that I've seen for the Reactivate series from, Starscream, B, Prime, and Soundwave. Because it's recognizable, but it's also different. And that is a really important theme that I really enjoy for like all of these figures, at least from what I've seen from Prime and Soundwave. I don't actually have them in hand yet, as I said. But B's vehicle mode looks pretty good. It's got, paint and color variation all the way around, which I do like. I mean, it's not, obviously more details could be picked out or separated and whatnot, but like, I appreciate just how it, varies. It mixes things up. You're not looking at one big patch of yellow or one big patch of like really dark gray or anything for too long. It's spread out nicely. I also like the fact that there is no clear plastic on either of these figures. None whatsoever. Thank you, Hasbro. Thank you for that. But yeah, it's a good looking car, and as you can see, you got like yellow on the rims. There's a little bit of this dark color on the door, but then on the other side, there's a lot more going on, because this has all the figures have like this kind of vaguely asymmetrical thing going. Or at least these two. I haven't paid too much close attention to Prime and Soundwave, but like there's a little bit of asymmetry going on with their design, which I think is cool. Like, it's subtle enough that it's not a problem. Like, it doesn't call too much attention to itself, but it's there and it adds a little bit of visual interest. But anyway, yeah, you got that. You've got the paint going along here. You've got the silver for the lights and the dark gray for the grille, red Autobot logo. The lights up here are painted. The stuff going on back here is also painted. And like, this is the back of the vehicle, and it's basically the butt of the robot. So like, this didn't need to be painted like this, but they did, and it looks good. It looks good from behind, which I'm assuming is because if you're playing the game, you're probably seeing this from behind, I think. I don't know. As I'm recording this, we haven't seen much, if anything, of the game, so I don't know if it's third person or first person. I'm assuming third person, but we shall see. But anyway, yeah, B's car mode looks good. The robot stuff actually tucks away surprisingly well. And something I wanted to show off in case anyone was curious, you may notice there's this piece here and not here. This is one of these weapons. They do tuck away for vehicle mode. You can store them underneath the car, which I think is really great. I love having that option, but I wanted to show that you can also use them and deploy them in vehicle mode. You've got these slots on either side of the hood, and the guns have these little tabs on the grips, and you can plug them into those slots so you can have him blasting away, in vehicle mode. So that is a thing you can do. Personally, I prefer to just store these on the underside to get them out of the way, as I think it's cleaner. But you could do both of the guns on the hood, or you can tuck them there. So that is that. And the gun itself is like a little SMG looking thing, I guess. I don't really know guns, but I think that qualifies. It's got like the clip in the front. It's like a pistol size thing, but again, like has that ammo clip, or what I'm assuming is an ammo clip. It's small, but I think it's, it gets the job done. So that is Bumblebee. Now let's take a look at Starscream. And Starscream is, again, like he's recognizably Starscream because of the color scheme, the fact that he's a jet. Even like the yellow cockpit says Starscream to me, particularly in these colors. But again, they've got that asymmetry thing going, which I do think is nice. With the, the wing here is very different from this one, both in terms of molding and coloration, and also the bit here is different and stands out, and I like that quite a bit. One thing that I do kind of wish that they did with both of these figures is I kind of wish the asymmetry wasn't just on one side. I mean, I get it. I don't think it's terrible or anything like that, and like it's really more of a personal preference, but for me, I kind of prefer when the asymmetry is more asymmetrical, let's say. So like rather than having everything on this side being, the darker color plastic or paint or whatever, I think it would have been neat if they alternated. So like maybe have this dark section over here and then have the darker wing over here. So it kind of, it makes your eyes skip around for the asymmetry rather than just go up one side. Totally a me thing. I still think this looks cool. That's just something I personally would have preferred with the deco, but I still think that what they've got going here looks really good. And again, it's like recognizable as Starscream. There's a lot of really clever stuff that goes into this transformation as well. You can see the folded up robot here with like the legs and the arms, but they tuck away nicely. And of course you've got the more or less null rays on the bottom here that just plug in like they tend to. Lots of really nice molding all over this thing. And again, pretty nice color separation and paint work. For some reason, I do actually really like these little extra winglet fins that are sticking out right around there. And that orange on the cockpit really pops with everything else going on around here. I kind of like that they put this darker color going along the nose, so it's kind of mostly surrounding the orange. Because I feel like if the orange was on like this gray plastic, it wouldn't pop as hard. It would still be nice, but yeah, the darker contrasting with the lighter shades really does look good. And you've got this nice silver or grayish gunmetal vents up here. It looks really good. As with Bumblebee, you've got a lot of nice color separation and paint going on up here, but there are some spots that, could probably use a little bit more separation. Like back here, it's just one big pile of dark gray, but there's so much else breaking it up along here and even along the sides here with like the two-tone winglets or fins, whatever these are, and like back here. It's fine. It is not the kind of thing that bugs me with other modern Transformers. Like this is at most an extremely petty nitpick. It's not, this is not bad. This is just a thing I'm noticing, but like so much else is going on to break up the colors on the top here. This is a non-issue. But, if we get a Toy Hack set that adds a little bit more back here, I would not be upset. And also, as I'm looking at this, I'm noticing that the molding on here is asymmetrical. You've got some extra detail kind of molded in here, whereas here that panel is a little more flat. So yeah, I like that theme, how it's there but still relatively subtle. Now size-wise, well, we'll do them one at a time, because we saw how they look next to each other. As a quick reminder, there you go. Starscream is basically a Voyager. Bumblebee is basically a Deluxe, but like there are 2 packs, so it is what it is. But that's kind of how it breaks down. So size-wise, Starscream is pretty decent size. And bringing all these in, you can see that he's not a small jet. I would say, yeah, I'd say that probably Voyager-ish. I mean, he does spread out, so he may look a little bit bigger than that, but he's a good-sized jet, is what I'm saying, and have already said. So I'm going to stop saying it. And let's bring Bumblebee in, since we've already got all this set up. And Bumblebee, I think, is very clearly approximately Deluxe size. Like, he's practically the same dimensions as Burnout. Obviously not exactly the same, but they're pretty darn close, which is why this is going to be interesting when we do the transformations. So let's get all these out of here and do one more and vital size comparison. I'm going to bring Starscream back in for this too, I think. So here we've got Starscream and Bumblebee with the duck tank. Now comes the hardest part of this video, trying to decide which of these I want to do first for the transformation. But before we get into that, if you like this video or any of the other videos that I've done on the channel and you want to support me monetarily, I do have a Patreon with a link down in the description, or it'll be at the end of the video. I only have a single $1 tier, but that $1 a month gets you early access to new videos, as well as access to the occasional Patreon-only video that I make. I don't do them very often, but I do them. Also, I have a coffee, so if you don't want to do the subscription thing, that's an option. Or if you want to support the channel without spending any money, which I could totally get, I could always do the typical YouTube thing of like, comment, share, subscribe. With that out of the way, I think I'm going to start with Starscream because I have more things I want to say about Bumblebee's engineering. So we will start with Screamer. That is not to say that Starscream's transformation is worse or lesser in any capacity. He actually does some really cool stuff. I just think that Bumblebee does even more cool stuff. Anyway, going to unplug the null rays. I'm assuming these are null rays. I don't really know. I don't know the lore of the game, but I can unplug those. Now, I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to take the leg sections and unplug them. They tab in up in here. Try and bring this down. Just like this panel, this panel up here is what they're plugged into. So, unfortunately, I can't balance the light well enough to have that arranged like that, but I'm going to try and pop this out so that you can see what I'm talking about. This double hinges up. There's this tab that plugs in right in... Oh, this is really difficult to show, but there's a little tab slot thing right in there that it taps into. So I'm going to untab that and untab this, and again, hinge it up. It's a double hinge. So put those legs out of the way. I want to unpeg the arms from the wings. So these are just pegged in up here. So just untap those. Like so. Now I'm going to untab this whole back section of the jet. And this just tabs in along here. Here you can see how it plugs in, where like this is tabbed in here. So these are separate pieces that plug in together. There we go. And now we can kind of get this lifted up. This section, it's on a rotational joint right here, so you can actually lift this up to untab it from here because it tabs in very securely when you get it in place. So rotate that up a little bit so we can move these up and rotate those out. Because these, they don't exactly tab in, but they sit on top of these pieces here. So bring that up. Now I'm going to rotate this back down a little bit so that we can rotate the wings around 180 degrees. And clearance is a little bit tricky here, but it's perfectly doable. Do that. And now we're just gonna leave the wing assembly like this. That's what I like to do because it just kind of keeps it out of the way. And then these wings can come down. I've seen in the official art that they do the tail fins like that, which you totally can do. They do kind of soft lock in that position, but I prefer to have them straight up. So you've got options, but for the robot mode, I'm gonna have them down like that. Okay. Now, let's do the legs. So these fins just fold back. These legs, or leg pieces, come down a little bit more, and you want to fold out the toe, and then you want to fold out the heel. And the heel is surprisingly difficult to fold out. I find the easiest place to get a grip on them is there's a little notch in here, but like I just am not really good at doing this. I'm just going to use this piece of the mill ray to kind of pry it out. But there you go. That comes around. Same deal here. There's kind of like a little lip thing here that you could flip around, but it's so unreliable in terms of getting a grip on it that I just use this method. So yeah, do that. Flip that out. And now the leg pieces hinge down, and there are these little slots right in here. Boy, this is not easy to show. Little slots right here, and these tabs right in here. Those will plug in together, and that will solidify the leg. Let's bring that in, plug that in. There we go. And I'm also going to use the opportunity to just flare out these. You don't have to do this. I like to do it because these can kind of get in the way during posing, so I'm just flaring them out now while we're doing this. Okay. Now I'm going to take these red pieces, and these pop up and flip up basically 90 degrees. And this is actually pretty cool. These little winglet pieces actually fold in and sit inside, kind of behind this. They clean up really nicely. You can kind of see, if I get this out of the way, how this rotates up and sits in there. There's actually a little slot right in here that this slots into, which is really cool. There is an assembly error on mine, which you might be able to see. There's a screw here. There is no screw here. I noticed it after messing with this guy a couple of times. For some reason, the screw was just left out. It actually doesn't affect him at all. He still holds together fine. Nothing is loose, so I've just been ignoring it. But I may eventually try and find a replacement screw. I don't know. I don't really care that much, though. Also, I ordered it from Pulse, so I'm definitely not going to try and return it or exchange it. Anyway, for the arms, you want to bring them up on this joint. And this comes all the way up and will actually click into the torso. And once it clicks in, it actually keeps this from going back down too. So that's in there extremely solidly. You will actually hear it click. I'm going to show you from this angle. It comes up and then clicks in. And now that is really solidly in there. I'm going to flip out the fists and then rotate the arms. As you do. That's not particularly, new and different, but I really like this whole thing with like the arms coming up to shore these up and these flipping down. That's cool. Now, I'm going to do the backpack just because. So this can rotate around like this, and then this hinges up. This rotates back, but it's kind of flat like this, and then this hinges down, and there are these little bits here for the mushroom pegs, but there are also these little tabs. Rotate it this way. There are these tabs on the sides here that even have, I'm just noticing this now, that have these little curves to them, specifically so they fit around the mushroom pegs. It's actually really clever. But this accordion's down, and those will tab into those mushroom peg slots on the back. And that completely shores up the backpack, and then this comes up, and this tab here plugs in right back here. There we go. And for the wing arrangement, I like to rotate them a little bit so that they're touching this and then angle them back so that they're kind of touching that. Obviously, you can do what you want with the wings, but that's just how I do it. And now, just going to angle the hips a little bit and then bring these back up. So there we've got most of Starscream in his robot mode. Lastly, there is the head, which I also think was handled really well. This nose cone folds down on a double hinge, so it folds in all the way. This assembly untabs. There's like this little tab here that tabs in there, so that untabs and swings all the way down and will sit inside the torso. Then you can pull this entire section out, flip out the head, straighten it out, rotate it around, and then you kind of need to flex things a little bit, but there is this kind of semicircular thing here that will actually go over the pin in this joint here. So you kind of want to lift up as you get this in place, and you're also going to want to pull up to pull this section out for transformation back into vehicle mode, but it settles in and clicks in very nicely. And there we go. Lastly, because it's Starscream, we're just going to do the null rays now. So these just plug in as you'd expect. And they are asymmetrical. As you can see, they are not identical. I don't necessarily know which one is the correct orientation. Like, I don't know which one goes on which side, but I do it this way just because, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, there is Reactivate Starscream in robot mode, and you're going to take more of a look at him in a bit, but of course we still have to look at Bumblebee, and Bumblebee's transformation is also really interesting. I was actually enamored with Starscream at first, but then once I really got to grips with Bumblebee, I think he actually eclipsed Starscream for me. So to start, I want to pull down the bumper because there are these little sections here, these little slots that actually peg over these pieces on either side. So pull down the bumper, just kind of pull that out. Then pop the wheel wells out, and you kind of have to pull down just a little bit because they hook behind this piece here, but get those out of the way. And these also tab into or tab over the forearms. You can see there's a little tab here that kind of sits inside this strut. You can kind of see it on this side here. It's not a perfect fit, but it does sit in there. And I think it's mostly just to keep the forearms from being able to fall out. So do that. And on this side, show it from this angle. Untap that, swing it down. There we go. Now we can untab the doors, which they tab in up here, but there's also a little bit of a tab thingy up here that goes very, very subtle. There's just this tiniest bit of a lip thing right here. Zoom in a little bit more. So like this little raised section here needs to go under the window section. So it can be a little tricky to get lined up going into vehicle mode, but it's not too bad. On this side, you can kind of see as I bring this out how that lip kind of goes under everything. So that's how you want that lined up. So now with these flipped out, we can get the arms out of the way. And those just rotate up as you do. And this is where the guns are plugged in. There's like a little tab slot inside this cavity that the tabs on the handles of the guns plug into, and that keeps the guns pegged in actually really securely. So there is that. And this rotates out, rotate these up, and just because we're gonna rotate the forearm or bicep so that we can get these little shoulder pads up and out of the way and get the arms up and out of the way, and there we go. Now for the legs, these, I actually also like how this works. So these tab in up here. Just want to pull to the side, untab them from this back section. There we go. There you can see the tab and slot. And this is cool because it's just the knee bend. It's just the knees like he's basically just kind of scrunched down like one of those Halloween costumes you see a million times on Facebook now. And I don't know, I just think that's kind of cool how that's how they handle the legs, because it's surprisingly simple but elegant. So straighten out the legs. Now take the feet and hold them down and then rotate them around 180 degrees. Down, rotate around. There we go. And let's do the waist. Let's get the waist situated. So I want to unplug this from the back. It does actually tab in very securely. There you can see the slot in the tab. So untab that, and now you can swing the waist assembly down. And this does actually kind of soft lock in place. When you're going into vehicle mode, you want to push it up until it kind of clicks. So it's like, so it goes like, why is it not doing it now? There we go. So yeah, it kind of goes click. You know, you can kind of see it, maybe hear it, I don't know. But you want to unclick it, rotate it down, and now this just kind of sits, like it folds down and it does shift position, but primarily this is about getting the waist assembly into place. So this comes down, and this now will actually plug into the bottom here. And there we've got the waist assembly done. There is no waist rotation on this guy because of the way he transforms, but I think that's fine. Now to finish up the legs, this is another really cool thing. You untab the wheels here, and they swing around and sit inside the leg, which, you know, that's not a new thing. But what's cool is, as you bring these around, there's this panel here that's on a separate hinge. So when you bring this in, it pushes that panel out. And it just kind of adds a little bit more dimensionality to the shins. And that's a really cool touch. I really like that, because you can see you could just kind of push it out with your finger, but then it gets pushed back in. But when this wheel is rotated around and into place, it pushes it out and it can't get pushed back in place. That's really cool. And now this accordion's down, and this will tab in here, this will tab in here, and that just cleans up the legs. And there we go. There is the lower body all done. And now for the upper body. This is also really interesting. So you want to essentially get this whole upper part of the car in half. It just pops apart like so, and that folds down. This assembly pops up and rotates back. Like, there's so much hinging going on here. I love this thing. And now as this comes down, what you could do is you hinge this up, and this whole assembly will accordion up and over the the windshield area to make the torso, which is all well and good. But there's even more that happens here, because there's this section here that tabs over this, but you can do more than that. It's not just like, oh, bring this down and then bring it back up, because you can, if you wanted to, do the robot mode like this, do the chest like this. But this is really cool. If you notice, this is very subtle and it's not in the instructions, but this bumper is on a slider. So what you do is you slide this in until it clicks, and then bring it back up. And as you bring this up, you'll notice that this little armature that the bumper is on ends up lining up with this tab section here. And that will all peg together. And that, it brings the bumper down a little bit, which is a subtle difference, but it's one I really like because it just kind of lengthens the torso a bit, shows off a little bit more of that molding in there. And it just kind of, I like how it's integrated into that tab section there to really lock the torso together. It's just very cool. Anyway, I'm gonna bring the arms down. And now to finish up, this section swings down, this kind of comes up, and this just kind of sits in this cavity here. Unpeg the head platform from the tab down there, and then fold this down, and these two bits will actually tab together. And that will keep the head in its proper robot mode orientation, so it's not sitting too far back or too far forward. It's all locked together, and this is just a really, really cool transformation. And a really cool looking Bumblebee. I really like this Bumblebee. I also really like the Starscream. So let's readjust here a little bit. Get kind of down on a more of a forward-facing thing. There we go. So yeah, these two look fantastic. I love this set because like the engineering is really cool. The plastic actually feels really nice too. Like there's something about the plastic quality that they used here that doesn't feel the same as some of the other figures that I've gotten recently. Like, I mean, heck, just like Legacy Burnout. Plastic on her is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's just something about the plastic on Reactivate Bumblebee and Starscream. Kingdom Cyclonus plastic, that's what it feels like. It feels like that kind of thicker and sturdier plastic that we got on Kingdom Cyclonus. And it's really nice to touch, I guess. I don't know. But like, they feel great. They look great. I absolutely adore how these are very clearly Bumblebee and Starscream, but they're not G1 Bumblebee and Starscream, even though they do hit some of the similar design notes in terms of like color placements and, you know, overall design cues, like Bumblebee's little horns, Starscream's secret chest, cockpit, that kind of thing. The you know, vents behind the head, that kind of thing. Like, they absolutely are reminiscent of their G1 designs, but they're not their G1 designs, and that's another thing that I absolutely love about not just these figures, but what I've seen of Soundwave and Prime as well. They're recognizable, but different. Yes, more of that, please. And I feel like that, you know, having the, I guess, if you want to call it that, the shackles of G1 removed, allowed the designers to play a little bit more fast and loose with the transformation scheme and the overall character design. And yes, more of that. Please. If we could just continue with the, you know, these are recognizable characters thing, but stop with the blatant G1ism for just a little bit, that would be great. But anyway, these guys look fantastic. Now, Starscream's asymmetry is a little bit more obvious than Bumblebee's, but they are both there. And in robot mode, it shows a bit more, because like you still have the asymmetrical wings, but then you also have the asymmetrical shoulder or chest bits. The shoulders are different. Get Bumblebee out of the way here. The shoulders are different, with one in red, one in this like darker plastic, though I think the molding is the same on both. Oh, no. The shape is the same, but there is some slightly different texturing on these two. Let's see. Got, obviously, the hip sections are, again, these look like they're molded the same or very close to the same, but they are, you know, one is painted, one is red plastic. The thighs are asymmetrical. The forearms are painted differently. So, like, yeah, it works. I like that asymmetry. I just, again, as I said with the vehicle mode, I kind of wish that they mixed it up a bit. So, like, maybe do, you know, thigh, forearm, shoulder, chest piece, wing, you know, mix it up like that so your eye bounces around for the asymmetry rather than all of the, like, you know, all of the dark plastic or paint is on this side. Which, not saying it's bad, I just think it'd mix it up even more if it was, you know, flip-flop. But maybe they wanted to keep it just slightly more subtle, I don't know. B does same thing with the asymmetry, kind of, where if you notice, like, there are a few things that stand out. The molding is very, very close to identical. Actually, no, the molding is identical on everything from what I can tell. It's just the paint. So, like, here, the darker colors kind of stop partway up the forearm, but here they go up all the way. On the knees, you've got a little bit of yellow showing through here, but not here. The shoulders appear to be symmetrical, and then you've got the doors on the back. So Bumblebee's asymmetry is not as intense as Starscream's, but it is still there. And I think the idea is that they want to show off this, this concept of them being kind of beaten up and, put back together with spare parts or something, which does work. I think it's an interesting concept for Transformer designs. Again, I just wish they kind of mixed up the placements a little bit more. But these designs are so cool, the transformations are so cool, and the figures are really, really good. Rotating them around, you can see that Screamer is actually pretty clean. Like all the way around the back. You don't have gaps in the legs because of the way the legs come together. The backpack comes together and compacts pretty nicely. You do have some waffling on like the backs of the forearms, or the backs of the biceps rather, and the inside of the forearms, but I think that's understandable given, how this thing comes together and all that. The insides of the thighs are a little bit waffly, but that's, again, not that big a deal. He's just very solid. B, same deal. He's very solid looking all the way around. He's pretty darn clean, how everything comes together. The backs of the legs are a little messy, but they're filled in. You do get some waffling on the inside of the, get this out of the way, on the inside of the bicep, on the backs of the forearms, which are currently plugged, covered with guns, but they're insides of the thighs, the usual places where you see this stuff, but it's not bad. He looks really good from the kinds of angles you'd probably have him displayed at anyway. And as I said, these figures are just really, really nice. I'm really looking forward to Prime and Soundwave now. Since we started the transformation with Starscream, let's start the other stuff with Bumblebee. So the head is decidedly Bumblebee. I guess slightly more squished in and angry looking Bumblebee, but he is Bumblebee. He's got the horns, he's got the little silver face in there, the little round boy aesthetic, but a little bit more texture to it, a little bit more, I guess, edge, but not 90s edge. And the paint is also nice. You've got it's hard to see in this light, but the eyes are actually painted blue. Right, re-angle this a little bit. Oh. Come on, light, work with me. There you go. You can kind of see that the eyes are painted blue, and the face is silver, and then the head crest is like that kind of gunmetal-y color. And the texturing is really nice. It's very much Bumblebee, but this does say more mature Bumblebee to me, and not necessarily edgelord mature, just he's grown up, Now the articulation is, as you saw, the head is on a ball joint, so you can look way up and look down a little bit. You don't, because of how it's situated, the ball socket is, the actual stem is inside the bottom of the head, so you're not going to get any side-to-side tilt, but you do get full rotation. The shoulders can go, you get the shoulder pads. If you have the shoulder pads angled up like I like to do, they will clash into this piece here, so you want to kind of angle those out a little bit. But you get all the way around on the arms, the window or wings, doors. Door wings can move out or up. I do kind of wish that you could angle them up or down a little bit, but there's no hinge for that, and that's fine. You can go out to here, but you can use that transformation hinge to go out a little bit further. Actually, if we angle the shoulder pad out of the way, you can go even further, though it does look a little awkward because this is kind of on an angle, as you can see. So the arm kind of goes forward if you bring it up too far, but that's a thing you can do. You have a ball-jointed elbow, so that functions as your bicep swivel, and then a 90-degree bend at the elbow. No wrist articulation because the forearm is a solid piece. No waist articulation, but given how this thing transforms, I don't really mind that. I think, not really much they could do. The hips can go forward about that far, or they clash into the little waist assembly thing, but that's fine. Can go back that far, which is also fine. Can go out to get this out of the way. It can go out to 90. You get a dedicated thigh swivel, and then the knees can bend to 90 degrees, and the feet are on ball joints, so you get some really decent inward tilt, a little bit of outward tilt. You can go up and down a little bit, and you can also rotate the feet. So pretty nicely articulated ankles. This is pretty nicely articulated bee in general. And as we saw, you can plug his guns into the backs of his forearms, and they are these tiny little SMG-looking things. And you can plug them into his fists, or if you wanted to, you could plug them into the slots that are on the same part of the car hood. That it's the same part from the vehicle mode. So you can plug these in and give him shoulder-mounted guns, which is certainly a thing. It does make me wonder if maybe they might retool this. Maybe, I don't know if they're going to do retools or what. I don't know what the deal is with this particular toy line or the game in general, but this does make me think this could be possibly reused for like Barricade or Smokescreen. Was it Smokescreen? I think it's Smokescreen. Blue Streak, that kind of thing. But that's just purely based on, that's speculation purely based on the placement of these little gun things on the shoulders. But yeah, you can put them in his hands, and he looks good holding them. They do still look a little tiny, but he's Bumblebee. I don't really mind him having pistols. And for Starscream. Starscream's head is very Starscream. It's, like Bumblebee, he's a little bit more greebly, a little bit more textured. Also, his eyes are blue. I know that was bothering someone on the Discord, and I understand it. Starscream's eyes are traditionally red, sometimes yellow, depending on the show. But I don't know. Like, I did some kind of digital rough sketches on like what it would look like if I painted the eyes red or yellow, and they just didn't look right to me. The blue just kind of works better with this particular color scheme for me. So I think I'm going to keep them blue, but that's what they did. Also, assuming I remember to do it, I'm going to pop up a picture so you can see how the head is assembled. You can actually use a screwdriver to, it's like a little screw right in the back of the head there. Actually angled so you can see. If you unscrew that, the head comes apart, and the eyes are separate from the face. So if you really don't like the blue eyes, you can take the head apart and either repaint the eyes or put like, red tape or something over the eyes to change their color and then put the head back together. So you got options. Anyway, the texture on the head is nice. It looks like Starscream. The shape is there, though a little bit different. The vents on the sides of the head are there, though I think they sit a little bit higher than they traditionally do. And it looks really good. It's Starscream. I wouldn't have been mad if they did a smirk, but who knows what the deal is with this game. Also, the blue eyes thing. Someone was commenting on, I think it was one of Evangelist's streams, or maybe it may have been when I was doing a stream recently myself, which I do on my Discord from time to time. But someone mentioned the fact that apparently the Autobots and Decepticons are working together in this game. So maybe the blue eyes on Starscream are meant to represent that? I don't know. But then Soundwave has a red visor, so I don't know. Anyway, for the articulation, the head, as with Bumblebee, is on a ball joint, so you can look up an okay amount and not really down. Though, unlike Bumblebee, you can get some pretty nice tilt and can rotate all the way around. It's kind of necessary for the transformation, but do that. The wings, as we saw before, they can move back and rotate on this hinge, and if you want to, you can kind of move these back so you can angle the wings back more. So you've got some options there. Again, personally, what I prefer to do is just have them arranged like this, but you got options. The arms can go all the way around, except the wings kind of get in the way, but yeah, you got that. they can go out that far. Unfortunately, that is as far out as the arms go, so not quite 90, but pretty close. And the shoulder pads like to come down when you lower the arms, so might need to push that back into place. But there's that. You've got bicep swivels. There are slightly over 90 degrees of bend at the elbow. The wrists do not rotate, but you can move them in if you want. You do get a waist rotation. The hips, if you get these out of the way, because these can clash. Like if you bring these in all the way, like you can kind of see that like if you bring them in like this, that kind of jams up the hip from going backwards. So I find it's easiest to kind of scoot these out of the way, at least to that degree, and then move the legs and then kind of push them in as I'm done with the posing. But anyway, the hips can go forward quite a bit and can go back to about there until they dash into the backpack. If the backpack wasn't there, these could go back further. They can go out to almost 90. You've got thigh rotation. And again, that kind of locks up if you're not careful. There is a knee bend that is under 90, or not under, it's pretty much 90 degrees, which I think I can kind of understand that given how everything comes together and there's like an extra kind of pin hinge in here. Actually, let me see how this works, because that assembly doesn't look quite... Okay, no, what is this? Is that like an extra thing? Is that a thing you do for robot mode? What is that? I did not notice that joint before, and now I don't understand why it's there. Someone may be able to tell me, but yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna assume that's for robot mode to just kind of fill in the legs a little bit more. But huh. Alright. But anyway, because of that joint, this is only gonna go 90, but that's fine. And I guess while I'm here, just pop that out on this one too. Okay. And now for the leg, or for the ankles. The ankles are, I will say I had to strengthen the joint up here because the forward and backward motion was a little too loose for my liking. So I did tighten that up, but you do get forward and backward motion on the feet. You can actually, if I actually show you, you get forward and backward motion on the feet. The heel can move down, and you do get an okay amount of, a pretty decent amount of ankle tilt, I'd say. It's not terrible. So yeah, pretty good articulation on both of these guys, and a weird joint on Starscream's calves for some reason, but I'm not mad about it. It's just a little weird. But anyway, yeah, these guys are very cool. As I said, I really dig the look, the fact that they're a little bit different, the quality, really, the plastic quality, I think, is pretty darn nice. They look fantastic together, and I think they're going to look fantastic with Prime and Soundwave too. We are zoomed out as far as we can go. Okay, now let's do some size comparisons. So, looking at them like this, it's like, okay, yeah, Voyager Deluxe. We bring in some of our size fellows. You can see that Starscream is actually pretty tall for a Voyager. Like, I wouldn't put him in leader size, but like, he's almost a head taller than Inferno Artfire. So yeah, he's pretty decently sized. And let's just bring in Burnout, our more standard sized deluxe. And yeah, like Bumblebee, oddly, for once, Bumblebee is like a tall deluxe. That is a bit of a surprise, honestly. Not complaining, but it's a bit of a surprise. So get Burnout out of there, and let's do some more size comparisons. So speaking of Starscreams, here he is with Prime. Was this Starscream a deluxe or was he a Voyager? I think he was a deluxe. So, Prime Starscream, first edition Prime Starscream, was a very tall deluxe. But like you could see, he's not that much taller than Reactivate Bumblebee, so yeah, I think he does qualify as a tall deluxe, and that's weird to say about a Bumblebee. And speaking of Bumblebee, here he is with Studio Series War for Cybertron Bumblebee, who is obviously shorter. And if we're going with actually small Bumblebees, here he is with animated, Legacy animated Bumblebee, who is, again, continues to be rather small. But I didn't think to do this when I was getting my size comparisons together, but let me grab a modern leader class figure to try and see how Starscream measures up there. And this is going to be difficult to do. Where are my leader classes? Have them. My collection is all organized by character, so figuring out leader, especially like modern leader, is a little bit tricky. Do I even have leaders anymore? With how I've pared down the collection over the years. Because I keep thinking, oh, that's a leader, but no, that's just a really tall Voyager. Huh. Oh, okay. Well, it's maybe not the best size comparison, but we'll do this because I've wasted enough of your time already. So, yeah. Here they are with Rise of the Beast Scourge, and bring B up here and move Scourge and Starscream in a little bit. So yeah, here I would say this probably makes Starscream definitely not as tall as a leader, but I don't know, I feel like kind of like how some figures like Rotor Storm were, you know, kind of between Deluxe and Voyager. I feel like Reactivate Starscream is kind of like between Voyager and Leader class in terms of general height. Though I still maintain that, you know, all the size classes aren't size classes anymore. They are price points. Anyway, Duck Tank. And that is it for Transformers, Reactivate, Bumblebee, and Starscream. I am so happy this video is over. Not because I dislike the figures. I love the figures, as I think I've made clear, but because I've been talking for so long because I record in batches and my throat is just like, ugh. So I'm looking forward to not talking for a bit. But that being said, these are fantastic. I think either one as a standalone figure is totally worth getting, but really they're both excellent. So I don't think you can actually go wrong with this 2-pack. And again, I think that Prime and Soundwave look extremely good as well, so I'm really excited to get my hands on those. And eventually, I do hope to make a video on them whenever I get them in. But that's enough about what I think. What do you all think of these guys? Or Prime or Soundwave if you have either of those, or are interested in them. Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and as of recording this, I don't know what the next video is going to be because I've done a video on everything that qualifies for my 2024 acquisitions list for my top 10 at the end of that year. That is next year as I'm recording this, as I said. So yeah, I have nothing new in my possession as of this recording. So we will see what happens.